All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to the New Jersey Student Climate Summit closing session. The time has sure flown by since Caroline Lewis from the Clio Institute shared her perspective with us on the social environmental impact of climate change and the power of students to take action on February 23rd. There have been 9 additional student sessions and 5 teacher sessions, all focused on why is climate change happening? How will climate change impact us and future generations? And most importantly, we, working together, can intervene to slow the rate of climate change and to adapt the impacts. How many of you attended at least one of the climate sessions besides this one live? Please feel free to use the raise hand feature or to raise your hand so we can just take a moment and see how many people were able to attend. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us live. Very much appreciate it. And how many of you have used at least one recording? Please raise your hand. Amazing. Thank you guys so much for participating in both viewing and attending live. It's very much appreciated. Recordings of the sessions are available on the Sustainable Jersey for Schools website. We are going to put it in the chat now on how you can access them. So now please put in the chat one thing that we learned from the sessions that really had an impact on you, either in a positive way or in a wake-up call sort of way, like something you just never realized before. Yeah, how much food waste there is. I know for me, it was definitely the know your food. For me, it was definitely the knowing your food. I know Miss Delaney, my actual AP environmental teacher, we just watched that one today in class. And it was kind of crazy thinking about how much food we waste and how much like food we can use kind of even after they're like expired or like we didn't even know that they weren't expired. I think that's something that definitely was brought to light for me and something I'll be taking more precautions towards and viewing in a different light now. Food waste in the Pinelands, that was a good one. All right, thank you guys so much for commenting. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the session so much. Today's session is focused on all of us taking what we have learned and doing something about it. And even better, to make it fun, show some creativity and demonstrate your impact. The program partners, the Drumthwacket Foundation, Sustainable Jersey for Schools, Atlantic City Electric, and Exelon Foundation are sponsoring a contest where your school can earn up to $2,500 or $2,500 to support more climate change initiatives and get a chance to interact with the New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy and First Lady Tammy Murphy, who recognize the role of students, the role that students can play in helping our state address climate change effectively. I'm now pleased to introduce Robyn Brenner, Executive Director of the Drumthwacket Foundation, to tell us more about the contest.
Hi, thank you, Natasha. As Natasha just said, my name is Robyn Brenner, and I'm the Executive Director of the Drumthwacket Foundation. The Drumthwacket Foundation is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization entrusted with the conservation and restoration of Drumthwacket. Drumthwacket is the official residence of New Jersey governors and is a nationally landmarked historic site. First Lady Tammy Murphy serves as president of the foundation, which is why the foundation is one of the sponsors alongside ACE, Exelon, and Sustainable Jersey in the Student Climate Challenge. So I'm here today to hopefully convince each and every one of you to join the contest. You've all participated in the summit, and now it's time to take what you've learned and channel it into action. So here's what you need to know about the contest. First, you need to form a team. Every team must have a teacher mentor. Teams can be as few as 2 students or as many as 12 students. The teacher mentor must register your team's participation in the contest through the online portal that's available through the Sustainable Jersey website. Next comes the fun part. Get together with your team, either virtually or in person, but if you're in person, please do follow COVID safety protocols and brainstorm great ways in which you and your team can take action. Now, these projects can be either home-based, school-based, or community-based. But the most important thing to remember is that all of your projects must lead to an accomplished result. In other words, don't just say that you're going to change the environment, but go out and do it. Plant trees or build a rain garden. We want to see your team in action. Along the way, document your project as a digital story. Now, don't worry if you don't know how to do this, because later on in today's session, we're going to talk you through that process. Plus, there's going to be lots of great resources and tips available online to you, your teacher, and your team through the Sustainable Jersey website. Upload your 3 to 5 minute digital story, plus a short summary of your project through the contest portal by June 11th. So that's the deadline for the contest. So start on your calendars, June 11th. We recognize that's not that much time, but we have great confidence that you and your teams are going to accomplish some wonderful things. Experts will review the entries and, fingers crossed, hopefully your team will be one of 3 winners, either in the middle school or high school level. First prize is a $2,500 school grant. Second prize is a $1,000 school grant. And third prize is a $500 school grant. Winners will be announced in August. And then in the fall, the teachers and the teams from the winning teams will be invited to Drumthwacket in Princeton, New Jersey, where they will join a reception hosted by the governor and Mrs. Murphy. How amazing is that? So hopefully I've just answered a lot of your questions about the contest and convinced you to join it. If you have any additional questions, please put them in the question and answer box, and we promise to answer them throughout the remaining of the session. So once again, thank you very much for participating in the summit. Good luck with the contest, and I look forward to seeing all the wonderful things that you're going to accomplish. Thank you.
I'm so excited about the contest. To help all of us understand more about the impact of our projects and how to get started, I would like to welcome Dr. Andrea Drews from Rider University.
Hi, everyone. So thanks, Natasha. I'm also very excited about the contest and to see what actions all of you will be taking in your homes, in your schools, or your communities. Throughout the past few weeks, we've had a lot of sessions about people taking action against the impacts of climate change. And today, we're lucky to have Lynn Cherry join us and to be able to hear from Jaysa Hunter-Mellers to join us to share a few more stories of how young people like you can have an impact. So Lynn is a children's book author and illustrator of a number of stories, including the very famous classic environmental story, The Great Kapok Tree. She's also the producer and director of Young Voices for the Planet films, which feature stories about how youth are taking action and sharing their success in environmental solutions. There are a number of films that feature youth speaking out, creating solutions, and leading the way for change. They include stories of California kids banning plastic bags, Florida students saving their school $53,000 in energy cost savings, an 11-year-old who has helped to lead others to plant millions of trees to help mitigate the impact of climate change. In just a moment, I'll drop the link into the chat so you can view any of these videos after our session today. We will also get to hear from Jaysa Hunter-Mellers, a Young Voices for the Planet youth ambassador who is featured in the film Words Have Power, which we will also get to watch. Jaysa is a passionate advocate for environmental justice and civics education. Civics education is when, if you haven't heard that term before, which that would be terrible if you have never heard that term, but just in case you've never heard that term before, civics education is when we learn about how our government works. Maybe you've started to learn about this in a social studies class, but when we think about civics, we're talking about both the national or the federal level, but also a local level for our state, our county, or even your town or your school district. Decisions are made all the time by both national and local policymakers. And by understanding the civics of how these processes happen, you can get involved and you can influence those decisions when they are about topics that matter to you, like climate change. So we will also get to see how Jaysa has found a way to civically get involved in her local government by speaking out against a coal-fired power plant that was negatively impacting her community. Towards the end, Jaysa will introduce a planning template that was developed by Young Voices for the Planet that can help you design and implement your own action project. But without any further ado, I will turn it over to Lynn Cherry.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm glad that you all are here. It's been really exciting doing these Young Voices for the Planet films. There's 13 now, and they're just young people who were concerned about climate change, and they wanted to do something about it. And we realized that a lot of times climate change seemed overwhelming to young people. It's overwhelming to everyone. And we realized that when people are feeling that they can't do anything about something, that they're motivated to avoid hearing about it. And it's actually a term called motivated avoidance, which is like how when you feel, oh, it's too big, can't do anything, and you want to push it away. So we realized that what we had to show people is success stories. And it was a way of like the success stories, the solutions were an antidote to the fear that people were feeling, or the feeling that they couldn't do anything. So Andrea gave a great introduction about, mentioning many of the films. Felix Finkbeiner, who planted 1 billion trees, he's from Germany. And the girls, you might see this film afterwards, Save Tomorrow, and 3 9-year-olds. And they found that there was a law prohibiting solar panels on town buildings in their town. And they went and they testified, and they got this law overturned. And so what these films are showing is that young people, even if they're way too young to vote, they can change people's minds, they can change laws, and they can change their communities. So it's really exciting. And Jaysa's story is especially powerful because, as you'll see, she was from a very poor community that felt really powerless. And she went and testified in front of the city council, and you'll see what happens. But when she speaks, she does a lot. The film is in a lot of film festivals, and Jaysa will often speak afterwards. And the question she always gets is, how did you know that you could do that? And she gets so indignant, and she says, how could you not know that you can do that? Like, why aren't we taught this? Why aren't we taught democracy? Isn't democracy about going out and participating in, like, as Andrea said, local and national government, but especially the local, because it's so doable, as these films show. And she said, Jaysa always asks, why don't they teach us this in school? Why don't they teach us about what democracy is and how it's relevant to our local lives and the decisions that are being made for us? We can take a part of that. And so she's been a great advocate for getting civic education into schools. And there are a lot of laws pending now that I encourage you to research to see if your state has laws pending to try and get to mandate civic education in school. So that's what Jaysa is trying to do now, because if we all had civic education, then everybody would be doing what the kids in the Young Voices for the Planet film are doing. So I think I'll just let you watch the film, enjoy it, and And then Jaysa will give her presentation. And if you have any questions afterwards, think as you're watching it, think if you have any questions for us afterwards. And we'll just let her roll. Thank you.
Say hi, Jaysa. Jaysa, say hi.
Hi.
When I was 6, I had a horrible asthma attack to the point where I actually had to exert myself breathing because I had so much trouble pulling air into my lungs.
My sister-in-law was a nurse, and she got her stethoscope and checked Jaysa, threw her in my arms, and told me to rush her to the emergency room right now.
A lot of kids in my school have trouble breathing and have to be hospitalized. I know it was really hard for some kids in gym. There was like an entire cabinet filled with asthma medicine. This is the coal-fired power plant.
The coal plant spews a lot of toxins, so I knew that that had something to do with why my daughter had an asthma attack.
My neighborhood isn't very rich. I don't know why there are so many plants in Bridgeport. There's the garbage plant, the sewage plant, the landfill, and the coal-fired power plant. I started searching up power plants, and when I saw how it actually affected people, I thought, that's horrible. I actually have to do something about this. PSEG is the company that runs the power plant in my neighborhood.
PSEG knew what was in their smokestacks.
I really wish I could get into other people's head, like people in the PSEG, what are they thinking putting polluting power plants in our backyard? I think it may be a case of environmental racism. Up in Westport, they have like mowed lawns, like picture perfect. And this is the most important thing, no power plants. No rich white neighborhood would ever allow some power plant to just be built in their backyard. So what companies do is pick a neighborhood that's poor, and usually these neighborhoods are colored neighborhoods. Some people have had a really big impact on my life. Harriet Tubman proved that if you put your mind to it, you will be able to free yourself from oppression. Martin Luther King proved that not every conflict has to be solved with violence. My mom is my hero because she helps make the world a better place. She's a first sergeant in the Army Reserves. My dad, he's a musician, so he's able to inspire people and make them happy. He plays reggae music because he was born in Jamaica.
What's our goal? No more coal! What's our goal? No more coal!
This group called Healthy Connecticut Alliance asked me if I wanted to do this event speaking to the city hall because I had asthma and I've been affected by it. And I said, yeah, okay.
She's come on stage with me a few times. She came on stage and she took the microphone from me and walked away with it. She's there performing a dance. I'm like, this girl, she has no fear. I was so proud of her. I was surprised when I heard that she was writing her own speeches.
Hello everyone, my name is Jaysa Hunter-Mellers. I am 10 years old and I attend Bryan School.
I didn't know if anybody would listen to me.
I am here today to talk about retiring the coal plant and restricting other bad polluters from polluting Bridgeport.
Because when you're a kid, it's hard to get anybody to listen to you.
I know that Fairfield County has the worst air pollution in the state. I know that because I'm smart and I looked it up on the internet.
That led to a long road of fighting and testifying. I just say what I'm feeling, and it sounds a lot more powerful when you talk from the heart.
It came out that they were going to close the power plant, and I had to hear it a couple of times. Are you sure? Is that what they said? Where is it in writing?
When I found out, I was just ecstatic because we worked so hard to get this place shut down, and it was just really satisfying to know that all of our hard work paid off and that it wouldn't be hurting anybody anymore.
Even though I didn't have money, I had words, and words have power.
So Lynn, any comments before I pull up the other one?
Her dad provided all the music for that, her reggae musician dad. That's all his music for the soundtrack.
Yeah, that's awesome. So much fun. And like Renee just kind of dropped into the chat, we talked about last week, you know, that good stories, stories that make you feel good about what's going on, have a good character. And Jaysa absolutely, you know, is that person, that character in a video, in the story that you're rooting for and you want her to be successful. So fantastic. All right, so we're going to hear a little bit more from Jaysa right now.
Hello everybody, my name is Jaysa Hunter-Mellers and I'm an environmental advocate, and today I'm here to talk to you about civic education and why it has a direct impact on climate justice, and how climate change and environmental injustice can have a direct negative disproportional impact on communities of color. So I got into environmentalism and climate activism at a very young age. I actually found out that a friend of mine had passed away from an asthma attack. And that's one of the things that helped me realize that this was very, very real. I actually had an asthma attack when I was 6 years old, and that's when we found out that I had asthma. And when I was 10 years old, that's when I got introduced to the Healthy Connecticut Alliance, and they helped me realize why so many in our community have asthma. And that's actually how I also got introduced to civics, because when we started testifying against the coal plant, the thing that was causing so much grief in our community, I got introduced to the mayor and to City Hall, and that's how I started testifying for climate activism. So my community is a community of color, and that's one of the reasons why we have so many power plants in our neighborhood, because it is a community of color. As you can see here, according to an NAACP report, 78% of African Americans live within 30 miles of a coal-fired power plant. 78%. We only make up 13% of the overall population. And that's how you realize how disproportionate our communities are affected by environmental justice and environmental injustice and climate change. And especially in my community, that's one of the reasons why I realized, because I live in a community like this. Our community is the largest and poorest city in our state. And in fact, our one of the largest wealth gaps in the entire tri-state area is between my city, Bridgeport, and another city, Greenwich, which is a rich city in Connecticut. My county has some of the worst air pollution in the Northeast. 35% of our community is Black and 40% is Hispanic, non-white Hispanic and Latino. We don't have affordable health care because so many of our people are impoverished. The way I actually got really into environmental activism and environmental justice is by actually speaking at rallies and testifying before the city council. And I found out something, is that words actually show my passion, and they show how deeply involved I am in the environmental justice community, and how passionate I was about getting that plant shut down. And the thing is, you can do the same thing. You should find your activism love language. You know how people have different love languages, like the love language of touch, the love language of gift giving. Well, if you could find your activism love language, then you could do the same thing. You don't have to go up there and start testifying before a big crowd. There are small ways that you could actually get into activism. You could do it through art, you could do it through music. There are so many ways to get involved in the climate activism community, and not just the climate activism community. Any social justice issue that you're involved in, if you find your activism love language, then that's the way to find your voice and to find your power. Now, the thing about climate change and environmental injustice is that it's not just about environmental injustice, it's also about civic injustice. So many Americans and so many climate activists are ignored when it comes to getting their voices heard. Even when they're heard, they're still not acknowledged. And one of the most important ways to get your voice acknowledged is to start testifying. You need to talk directly to the people on top, because they control everything. And especially when it comes to communities of color who are disproportionately affected by these issues, they are also disproportionately affected by voter suppression. And because communities of color are disproportionately affected by voter suppression, they're the ones that need to hear about how civic education affects climate change the most, because we are also disproportionately affected by climate change and environmental injustice. And as you can see, so it's not just communities of color that don't hear about civic education. Only 9 states require a full year of civic education, and 10 states don't require civic education at all. Last year, I only took 1 semester, actually half a semester of civic education, which was about 2 weeks of it. And almost 75% of Americans can't name all 3 branches of our government. And they're the ones that control everything that happens in our communities and in our country. So we need to recognize how civic engagement affects our democracy, because civic engagement is democracy. So, what should we do about this? Well, we need to start engaging young people in civics, and we need to start doing it at a young age. I'm talking from when we're 10 years old, we should start learning about how the government works, and what we can do to insert ourselves inside the government. And these are a few resources that you can use to get yourself involved in civics. Right here, iCivics, Newsfeed Defenders, and we need to start pushing. We need to start pushing the people that actually care about us inside our federal governments and our local governments. For example, my state senator, Marilyn Moore, she's a great advocate for environmental justice, and climate justice. And that's that's my civic outlet, and who I go to whenever there's an environmental crisis that I need resolved. And here are even more civic and climate education resources: Civex Now, the Zen Education Project, Young Voices for the Planet films, and our civic education and democracy curriculum, Our Children's Trust, and SELF, the Children's Environmental Literacy Foundation. So, as I've said before, everybody can do something. You need to find your civic action love language, or your activism love language. And there are many roles here, as you can see, that you can take in activism: the citizen, the rebel, the social change agent, the reformer. There are so many things you can do to get involved in activism and in civic climate change and environmental justice. My journey led to the PSEG coal plant being shut down in 2016, and to my film Words Have Power, that has been spread across so many states and has been seen by so many people. And it is my hope that that film helps inspire other people to get involved in the climate justice community, and how civic education is critical to climate justice and to our democracy as a whole. And we need to amplify our voices once we find them, because if nobody hears them, then that's the same as not having a voice at all. So start today, get your voice out there, find your voice, find your community, find your passion, and find your activism. Like a caterpillar, you should worm your way into hearts and minds, and use your passion or love language to transform ideas into action. And here's a quote here, one of my favorites, by Laurel Thatcher Ulrich. Well-behaved women seldom make history. And that goes for everybody. If you just stick to the status quo and never do anything different, then you won't make an impact at all. And here's our civic engagement curriculum. And this is the first lesson: how to develop an action plan. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more right now. So this is to the teachers this time. This is another resource that you could actually push out to your students. And it's on the Young Voices for the Planet website. And this actually goes over the action plan and how students can apply it to any situation in their community, or even a situation that they see in other communities. So this is A, assess and analyze. This is where you actually find the issue in your community or other communities to work on. So assess the situation and analyze it. Then collaborate. Find other students to work with. Make it a group project. Find teams, find friends. Maybe you can even rope your family into it. Find people to help with your issue and to brainstorm ideas about how you can tackle it. Then create a timetable. Make sure your goal is reasonably in reach. Make sure it doesn't take a year to accomplish. Identify who you can talk to help with your issue. Find political activists. Find other environmental activists that may be in your community. Find your Marilyn Moore. And organize. Organization is key. If you don't organize, who's gonna be at this meeting? Who's gonna bring the donuts to this meeting? Who's gonna drive somebody to this place? Then everything is gonna fall apart. You can't be a messy activist. You need to organize whatever you're gonna do. Make sure you have all of your ducks in order. And again, news, social media, local and national news outlets. If you have a school paper, make sure that your project gets out there. Share and engage with others. And this is more about our civic engagement curriculum and our climate activism curriculum. And these are more ideas about what you can do, more situations that you can use to apply the action plan to. Thank you.
All right, so fantastic. I think we have some time. It was, absolutely fabulous to hear some of Jaysa's ideas, but hopefully that got you all thinking as well about how you can get involved. So we have some time for some questions. Go ahead, and if you have any questions for Lynn, feel free to add them to the chat. Or you can drop them into the Q&A box. While you're thinking of questions, Lynn, anything else to share with all of us?
Well, I'm looking at this chat, and someone had asked a question about voter suppression. And I wrote the link in the chat. There's a movie called Suppressed, The Fight to Vote, which I strongly recommend. It is so powerful. It's about how Kemp suppressed the vote in his race against Stacey Abrams for Congress, and Kemp won. But it's really a powerful movie, and that I think one that's very important for everyone to understand how this can happen. So, and we have to really be vigilant. Yeah, I don't see any more questions.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any questions right now, but as let's see if someone just came in. Okay, I think we addressed that one already. So just a little bit more information about how taking climate action is about informing people as well. Yes, of course, speaking out, like as Jaysa did, or taking action to plant trees, as Lynn spoke earlier about. A young boy in Germany did, to now have planted millions and millions of trees, an incredible impact, but also spreading the news and spreading awareness around the issue is also really important. Lynn, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that as well.
Yeah, and there's in the curriculum, there's the action plan, which will really help you, because it's an acronym, ACTION. And where you look around your community and think, well, what needs to get done? What, as you're just going through your life, I'm not so crazy about that. Well, then maybe you could change it. And so that's to assess and analyze what needs to be done and what it is you're going to focus on. And then who can help you? You have to collaborate. That's a C, it's ACTION. Find other people who care about this issue and get together and talk about how you might do something. And then you, ACT, you have a timetable, how long you think it's going to take. And then I is to identify influencers, people who you go to and ask them to help you. And one of the things I've learned through life is really important is you go to people and they're kind of very dismissive, or they say no, and that's a no person. And you ignore that no person, you don't let them discourage you. You keep asking people, you keep asking other influential people until you find a yes person, and you will. You'll find someone who just thinks what you want to do is great and they will help you. So don't go banging your head against the wall trying to convince some no person. There are no people and there are yes people in the world. You'll find that out. Okay, I say IO, and then organize, and that's getting your team together, like in the movie Dream in Green, which you can watch online. These 4 girls do an energy audit of their school, and they save their school $53,000. They organized the custodial staff, teachers, the students, and then they even went outside the school. They went to the school board. So you have to really figure out, who is going to be on your team. And then N is one of the most important things. That's the news, to get what you're doing on the news. And being young people, all you have to do is just pick up the phone and call a radio station, news station, and they will be there. They if you're young, they'll want to, you're news to them. And so this is another reason why young people can be so powerful, because they can get media coverage. Everyone wants to see young people doing things. And they might say, oh, isn't that, cute? But then when you start actually changing the laws, it's so much more than cute. You're basically becoming citizens and you're becoming powerful. And in the movie Save Tomorrow, I don't know if we're gonna have time to see that or not, but at the end, you'll see Mari says, find your team, find your passion, find your power. And that's sort of sums it up.
Yeah, definitely. I think we might have time to show a few minutes of it, Lynn, if you think. I haven't seen any other questions really come in, or if you have any other comments, or what do you think? Go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and pull that up. All right. So this one, we're not going to get to watch the whole one because it runs a little bit long, but I will put the link in the chat so you can watch the whole thing. You can watch how it ends up. But we get to a good part in just a moment.
Yeah, the end's the best.
Okay. Let me try that one more time. For some reason, it gave me an error. Well, maybe we will just have to watch it. It'll be the cliffhanger that you have to come back. Let me try one more time.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess we won't get to watch it today. I'm not sure why my file is having an error. Sorry about that, folks. We will put the link in the chat because it is a great one. Lynn, do you want to give maybe like a quick synopsis of kind of the setup of the story?
Sure. I think I could probably show it from, I can share my screen if you want.
Sure, we can give that a try.
Okay, so I'll actually share the screen right now so you can see what I'm doing. So you to go to the Young Voices for the Planet films, you just go to youngvoicesfortheplanet.com, then you get this. Can you see my screen? Yeah, okay. And then here are all the films, and you just click on, they're all free. Just click on the orange button that's next to the film, and this is Save Tomorrow. So I'll just start playing that and see if it works.
I'm not seeing the video.
Oh, you're
I'm
not?
seeing the website, yeah.
Really, really close.
Oh,
We've been really close since like
okay.
kindergarten.
Oh, well, I guess it's not going to
Working
work
as a
then.
team
Okay.
gives you much more courage than if you're just working as an individual. If you're alone, it's always scary.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, sorry, folks, we tried. That's what happens sometimes. Yay, technology.
Yeah, but I hope you'll get a chance to watch it.
Yeah.
Because
So yeah, but we'll drop the link in the chat. But the one thing that I would love to get your comments on as well, Lynn, is the thing that's really sticking in mind is how Jaysa talks about finding that activism love language. And I know maybe some of the students might not necessarily be familiar with the idea of love language, but basically, in my mind, it's the idea that different people kind of receive love differently when they're in a relationship. Like some people might enjoy hearing compliments from their partner, or others appreciate when, you know, the helpful actions like washing the dishes or things like that, or others might receiving gifts from their partner. But basically, the analogy, I think, and I don't want to speak for Jaysa, so that's what I would love your feedback. But in my mind, I think the analogy that she's making is that we all can get engaged civically for action on climate change, but in different ways, right? So and those different ways can match who we are and what we feel comfortable with, you know? So while some students may feel comfortable with speaking in front of a school board or speaking in even bigger audiences like we saw Jaysa was able to do, you know, maybe others might be interested in organizing action online to build awareness, or maybe even other students might like to get hands-on with building a project like a rain garden or rain barrels or other things. So I know her slide said it, but I really like that idea that no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. So I was wondering if there's anything else, or if anything else to share to that, because I think that's a really powerful idea that, you know, we're sharing some of these messages around how students can speak out, but there's a number of different ways that students can get involved as well.
Yeah, you know, I have two thoughts about that, because I actually just had a conversation with a friend of mine last night who said, I'm just really not comfortable like going out in front of people. You know, I want to do the one-on-one, you know, if I can talk to my congressman or if I can write a letter, but, you know, to get out in front of people. And yet getting out in front of people is the most important thing that we can do. And that was what I love about Save Tomorrow, is because they were uncomfortable. And one thing Mari says is, you know, these are all adults, they rule the world, and she's intimidated by them. But then once she gets up there and she starts speaking, she realizes her voice is powerful. And I think that that's probably the most important thing, is to not just get stuck in your love language, like that, you know, you can only be one-on-one, that to go beyond your comfort zone. And that's another thing that's in another lesson in the Save Tomorrow film, I think is really important, where you heard the beginning where she says, you know, when you have to have a team, when you're just by yourself, it's really scary, she says. And it is, it's really scary. You have to have the support. You have to have your friends, but together, supporting each other and going and doing that and building your team is a way to get over that. And it is, and sometimes, like, I remember when I first started speaking, my hands would be like this. I don't know what it was. I just, like a lot of us, we just get in front of people, and it's beyond us, you know, it's terrifying. But then what happens is, especially with young people, you realize the people that are there all looking at you, listening to you, they're on your side and they love you. And that was the most important lesson. And it enabled me to get up in front of people thinking, they're not the enemy. They are my friends. They're wishing me the best. They want to hear what I have to say. They love me. So that's very, very important to say to yourself when you're getting up in front of people, that they want to hear what I'm going to say. And what I'm going to say is really important. And they're going to love it. And they're going to love me. And I'm going to love them. And that's what can be your love language.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Taryn, thank you so much for adding that to the chat. So Taryn was shared with us that she agrees with those kind of conversations that were the ideas that we're sharing right now, Lynn, and that her class, or their class last year, spoke to the mayor and the council, and some of the other students, the children didn't want to speak out publicly, but they decided to make a presentation to share the thoughts on Instagram. So yay, social media, or TikTok, or whatever is the current social media fad. I know I'm getting old and I can't quite keep up with it, but there's always, you know, a new platform out there to be heard. Whether everything, I know we didn't get to see it, but Jaysa has found radio, I know, to be especially powerful, as well as TV, the social media, all the different platforms out there. But yeah, as those are definitely different ways of pitching in to get your message in front of people, as Lynn is talking about, in a variety of ways. So yeah, to push yourself, but we all can make a contribution.
Yeah, and I want to encourage everybody. When can you see the screen now? My screen?
I'm seeing a real zoomed in of your website.
Yeah. Okay. So if you click on the words of power, and then you go down underneath the films, can you see this?
Nope. I'm just yeah, I think.
Okay, it's not presented, but okay. If you go onto the website, and then you can watch the film right up. It's up at the top. But if you scroll down, there are all these presentations by Jaysa. There's a radio program. There's Time magazine she was in, and you can actually listen to her, some of her talks that way.
Awesome.
And yeah, they are. They're really good.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think I don't see any other questions coming in, but I want to thank you so much, Lynn, for joining us, and send our thanks, of course, to Jaysa. But if any other questions, feel free to get them into the chat now. I see some agreement with some of those ideas that we're talking about, but fantastic. So thank you so much. You know, and as a way to bring it back to some of the other ideas that we've been talking about over the course of the past 4 weeks, which I cannot believe that we've been having these summit sessions. Is incredible. But it makes me really think about some of those big ideas that we heard from presenters even just last week, who shared with us the research around that youth can have an incredible impact. So it's very important, yes, to get your message out into like the big, like public, but also those conversations that you have with your family, your friends, your classmates, your teachers, your community at large can be so have an incredible positive impact on the beliefs of others around climate change and their willingness to take action as well. So my hope, of course, is that these stories that we got to hear from Lynn and Jaysa today, and those other stories that we've been hearing over the past 3.5, 4 weeks, help you to realize that even as students, even as youth, like Lynn said, don't listen to that no person, right? Find a way that you can get involved, and that you can accomplish so much more than you think, and how if you can share your digital stories and share your messages, that you are truly powerful. But of course, you have to get organized. And that's where I think, Jaysa spoke about it, and then Lynn shared with us again, that I think that's where the action template really comes in to be helpful. So that ACTION, the action template plan from Young Voices to the Planet, was shared, and it helps to provide that framework for anyone to design and implement their own action projects. So to help you think through this framework a little bit more, I'm going to hand it off to Natasha, who's going to share how she designed and implemented her own climate action project.
Thank you, Andrea. So I did make a mini presentation just to show you guys real quick, to give you some visual representation of what I'm about to go through. I think that should work. You guys can see that? All right. Perfect. So this is basically my project that I took on my senior year. As a Lieutenant Governor of Key Club, I'm a Lieutenant Governor of the New Jersey Key Club District of Key Club International. And basically we had to handle this district project. Every year we get to choose what the district project is. And this year we decided upon environmental because we just felt that it was such an important necessity in this time. And what we're going through right now is just really taking a toll on our earth. So we decided to choose environmental, and I'm just going to go through my step-by-step process on how I use the ACTION acronym to implement this project into the entire state of New Jersey for our key clubs throughout, and even on a few levels of international. Oh, just kidding. There we go. So the first point is to assess and analyze. Just like Jaysa said, I am smart and I went to Google it. It's so easy to use the internet to your advantage and completely use it to your advantage. Look for credible sources, of course, but search up things even locally in your area. What might be right in front of us, we could be completely missing just because we don't have the right information. For example, I live right next to the beach, and what I never knew until like my 9th grade or like my 8th grade bio class was that our oceans are our tidal waves are slowly increasing, which is going to soon enough drown out New Jersey if we don't take action right now. So that's something that I was interested in, and I Googled it, and it was very much true. And there's so many different resources that were made years and decades ago on what is going to happen if we don't take action. So that's something that I just never knew about because no one really spoke about it. So of course, go out and Google things and find them yourself, but also talk to your peers. Like I said, I went up to my teacher after that because they were teaching it in our science class just generally, but I took more action with that later on and went up to my teacher and spoke, and we decided on what we think we could do as students to help bring this awareness to our school. Recently with my project this year, the way I did this was that I put in some research and time and effort to figure out what would be best implemented for the state of New Jersey as a district project, something that everyone could relate to no matter what area you're in or what part of environmental justice you're interested in. Collaborate. These are some pictures of my committee and I meeting in person. This was back in August, so we are abiding by COVID regulations and all wearing masks and everything. But this was our collaboration. We had committee meetings. We had extensive phone calls about different projects and events we held. And overall, we just communicated with each other constantly about what we wanted to get done and everything we needed to achieve. This is key to your project working because, like Jaysa said, you cannot do it all on your own. No one can do it all on your own. And you always want to feel free to ask for help from your peers who are willing, because they are going to be such a big part of your project coming up. So this is just some examples of me and my committee meeting and just, collaborating and communicating with each other. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Can you guys still see my screen now? I'm going to take that as a yes. All right, perfect.
Yes, we can. Sorry, Natasha. I was giving you a thumbs up, but you might not be able to see my image right now.
You're totally fine. So yeah, the next step of your action plan is your timetable. On screen, I put some examples of what my committee and I used for our timetable. We made a really simple Google Sheet or Excel sheet, if you will, about when we're going to have our meetings, when we're going to have our assignments due, because we did work on our own on things as well as a committee together on things, depending on what it was. So up top here, you can see these little green check marks about like things that we did. You can see these dates over here about deadlines we had and meetings we had. And on the bottom here, you can see some communication as well as our timetable. We use this We used Slack, and we also had a text message group chat as different forms of communication to talk about like when we are all free for things. I know a lot of people are very busy nowadays, and trust me, I get it. So communication and talking about this and planning out ahead of time is going to be very important when you're trying to handle something as big as you're going to handle. Um, Identify. So you really want to identify who you can work with and what adults you can lead with. So in my case, for our district project, what we had to do is we had to go out and find some district project partners that we would partner with as not as charities, but as organizations, so that we could hold events with them and possibly reach out to them if we needed any resources, and vice versa, they could reach out to us. So on the left or on the right, you can see this example of an email I sent one time to New Jersey Future, I believe. It's one of the organizations in New Jersey that do deal with climate change and legal action. So that's just an example of an email I sent out one time to try and collaborate. And on the left, you can see a speaker that we actually brought in for our one of our fall rallies, which is basically just a big event that we had over Zoom this year, helping us and giving a speech at one of our events and giving out this example. These are just a few ways that you can help collaborate with other adults and have them help with your plan as well. But of course, there's different ways you can do that. You can rely on your teachers and professors. You can ask your own parents or even your lawmakers and local legislators. Anyone can help, anyone who will offer their help, take it up because you'll definitely need it. And at the same time, it's always welcome to bring more hands on deck. It's okay, there we go. So as for organize, of course, you have to organize meetings where you guys can all meet up and discuss what you're going to talk about. Here are just a few examples that we have in the bottom left-hand corner. You can see we have a hybrid meeting going on where some of us met in person and at the same time, some of us met over Zoom. Do whatever works best for you and what you're most comfortable with. If you want to Zoom people, and just like we're doing right now, and you think that's the best form of communication, then go ahead and do it because it's just as effective as meeting in person. There's no boundaries now, especially with this environment or with this internet, kind of state that we're in and this virtual environment that we're continuing to be in. There's no boundaries on what time can we meet up or like where are we going to hold this meeting, just because I could be driving in my car listening into this meeting right now, or I could be like laying in my bed with my camera off but still tuning in. And as you can see in the top right hand corner, we do hold virtual meetings as well, just because we want to always make sure we're corresponding with each other and we're continuing to work on our timetable. So as you can see, all these steps kind of lead into each other, if you're not noticing the theme by now. But this is how my committee did it to help organize different events for our key clubs. The final step you want to take is news. Put the word out everywhere. Here are some examples of posts we made on our website as well as our Instagram. But yeah, it's kind of like a little celebration afterwards. Like after all the hard work, you were planning, you were communicating, you had strict timetables, hopefully, that you stuck to. So now you finally get to look back on all the hard work that you did and kind of realize, wow, I did this, like this is what I did. And now I'm going to share it with the world because they deserve to know too. So like in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see a little Instagram post that we made about our district project, which is called Keeping the Garden State Green. It's just a general environmental district project that many people like to take in different directions. In the top right-hand corner, there's environmental awareness video contest that we held. You have your first, second, and third place winners just because we did hold a contest to get more people involved. And actually all three of these videos were on three different things. The first one was about, I think, green energy and renewable resources. The second one was about pollution. And the third one was about climate change and how it is affecting our environments. And in the bottom left-hand corner is just some examples of photo collage contests. This was just something we encouraged members to do to be aware of their own surroundings personally. And if that's something you want to do, go for it. I mean, like I said, a lot of people go onto the beaches every single day and don't realize how crazy it is that we take sand from some beaches and have to put it down all the way to the tip of New Jersey, which is in Cape May. We have to take sand from like Ventnor, Margate, Ocean City Beach, if you're familiar with the southern area, and you have to send it down to Cape May just because their beaches are getting flooded and the tides are rising so much faster than we predicted them to. So I feel like if you get knowledge about your surroundings and teach others about your surroundings too, through different projects you can do, such as taking action with different things. Like we had an event where we got to hold different beach cleanups throughout New Jersey in one day. We called it our New Jersey Beach Cleanup Day, which I'll actually move forward to right here. Give me 2 seconds, it will pop up. All right, yeah. So these are some of the amazing results that we got. So like there's some beach cleanups in the bottom left-hand corner. They held, there's a group of key clubbers that held a tree planting ceremony. In the middle right there, you can see they went to a park and they cleaned up their local neighborhoods. So there's just a limit. There's no limit on like what kind of events you can hold or what kind of action you can take. Again, you can suit this kind of structure to whatever you think will be best and whatever you think you can pull off. So those are just some examples of what I did throughout this year in order to get involved in my community and start making a change.
Awesome. Thanks, Natasha, for sharing. So I think it's, you know, whether, you know, I'm old now, you know, it's, I love hearing though, what Natasha was able to accomplish, what Jaysa's been able to accomplish, what so many other students out there, young people out there have been able to accomplish. Sure, you know, us old folks, we can help a little bit, but you all are doing so much on your own because you have, you know, words have power, your actions, your beliefs, what is important to you is important to all of us as well. And when you get us involved with what you find to be your mission, your passion around, you know, especially around climate change, we want to encourage, but around any issue that's important to you, we will support you. Because I think Lynn said, we love you, we do want to support you, and you are doing amazing things. And I think the climate contest is going to be another avenue for all of you to do amazing things, and make sure to check out those resources. And one of which, of course, is the action template, but there are many other resources related to climate change action that were shared over the past 4 weeks. And I encourage you to check those out. All right, Natasha, I'll kick it back to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lynn, and everyone who presented throughout this climate summit for all that helpful information. And now to give us more examples of what students could have done, or what students have done to take on climate change, is Heather McCall, Schools Program Director at Sustainable Jersey.
Hi, everybody. Thanks again for being a part of this really exciting couple weeks. And we really look forward to seeing your student-driven projects. I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about the Sustainable Jersey for Schools program and the context of where your work fits in this statewide movement that we have here in New Jersey. And I'm also going to show you some examples of what other students have done in New Jersey through the Sustainable Jersey program and through local action, hopefully might inspire some ideas for you for your upcoming projects. So many of you, your schools are registered with the Sustainable Jersey for Schools program. And this week, we're going to be hitting 1,000 schools participating in Sustainable Jersey for Schools. And then you couple that with our municipal program, Sustainable Jersey, which represents over 80% of the municipalities in New Jersey. There is a wonderful community out there of volunteer green team members at the town level and at the school level that you can lock arms with and collaborate with to move forward and do some education and some change making around the climate change issues that you're passionate about. Our program is a certification program. It's free, it's voluntary. We give tools, actions, and guidance. We even give money. We've given over $2 million in grants to participating schools to do projects similar to the projects that you'll be coming up with. And when a school is doing the right thing and doing actions in our menu of activities that schools can do to make a difference, we give them a bronze or a silver certification. Some of you are from certified schools, and especially Winslow Middle School was a champion school this last year. They had more points and did more sustainability activities than any other middle school in the state. So yay, Winslow. We have this website, sustainablejerseyschools.com. It's wide open to everybody. And on here, there's a lot of great information that will be helpful to you. It's at sustainablejerseyschools.com. You can check out the menu of action. So we have a lot of different things that schools and school green teams can choose to do, everything from calculating a carbon footprint to doing an energy audit to doing community education and outreach, doing green infrastructure, doing lesson plans, having school gardens, rain gardens, all kinds of things for a school board member to do, things for a facilities director to do, things for student groups to do, things for educators to do, things for parents to do. So it's really a great menu of options for schools. And when you click on the different activities and actions on our website, there's really detailed guidance. So if you were inspired by something this week that you learned about in the Climate Summit in one of the sessions and you want to dig deeper, say maybe you want to do a rain garden or you want to do some things to mitigate flooding in your part of the state, you can go on to the green infrastructure actions. And there's a menu here that tells you, why is it important? Why should we care about this? Who should be involved? How long is it going to take? Exactly how to do it, how other schools might have done it, some spotlights, and then a great menu of resources of all the different partners and nonprofits and agencies like the Rutgers Stormwater in Our Schoolyard program and the Rutgers Water Resources program that could come and help you for free to do some of these initiatives. So a lot of those partners that we talked about this week, they are listed right here in the resource sections for our various actions. We have 104 actions to choose from. You can also use our website to see more detail about what other schools are doing. So say you wanted to see another school that's calculated the carbon footprint of their school district to see what the environmental impacts are of the school's operations. You can go to the map of participating schools. You can click off that particular action. It'll populate with all the schools that have done that. You can see their certification report. Again, this is wide open. And you can download their documentation. So again, there's real world examples for anything that you might want to do that's related to any of our Sustainable Jersey for Schools actions. So now I'm going to share some activities, some actions that students have done in the context of our program that may be of interest to you. So one of the things you could do to help make a difference is collect baseline data. You could do the calculating your school carbon footprint action. There's a spreadsheet in our action guidance that you can fill out. It self-populates. You can check that out and give a baseline for your school's impact on the environment. Some of you are in schools that are participating in the Power Save Schools program. That's a behavior-based energy conservation initiative. It's going through your school, encouraging folks to do last out, lights out, and conserve energy, turn off the lights, turn off your monitors, giving helpful, positive encouragement and feedback to people who are doing the right thing in terms of saving energy by changing their behavior. And we have seen schools like Long Branch School District save over $400,000 off the school budget just through these student-based initiatives where they're getting everyone to pull together and conserve electricity to save money for the school. So students are involved in conducting waste audits. Again, this is about collecting that baseline data, seeing how your school is doing with its waste stream. Are people recycling? Could you do a better job? Could you institute composting and maybe divert some of those waste products from the landfill? There's guidance for that on our website. You can lead behavior change initiatives like anti-idling education and enforcement. This is a group of students from Reddington Elementary. They do some education with the school bus drivers, the parents, awareness campaigns, enforcement. These are all things that can lead to behavior change right at your school and prevent vehicles from emitting exhaust that might be really close to your building and coming in through the intake and recirculating in your school and affecting your overall indoor air quality. These are schools from these are students from a high school in Hunterdon who challenged their fellow students to make some changes. That's what a green challenge is. It's getting people to change their behavior by asking them to make a change. And they wanted to do some education to show their fellow students how many water bottles, plastic water bottles they went through every day, over 800 plastic water bottles every day. So they built this tunnel for their fellow students to walk through and challenge them to use less plastic water bottles and sign a pledge and make a difference in their school. And you can do a green challenge around lots of different things. It doesn't have to be plastic water bottles, anything that you want to inspire people to change behavior. You could green your school event. We have a Green Your Green Fair action, but you can also apply it to a school event. And in this case, this is Middlesex County Votech. They greened a school performance. This is a dance performance, and all of the costumes are made out of recycled materials and trash bags. And the whole performance was about the environment. You can see over on the right-hand side, there's a wave formed there made out of plastic water bottles. And so that was sustainability, and a message about waste and taking care of the planet was embedded into the whole performance. It was the theme of the whole performance. And so they greened their school performance. There's something called non-mandated materials, right? These are things, you put your blue recycling bucket out in front of your home, and you've got paper and you've got cardboard and you've got your tin cans and you've got your number 1 and number 2 plastics in there, but there's a lot of other items that can't be recycled curbside. These are called non-mandated materials, things that wouldn't get picked up for recycling, things like plastic bags, things like hard plastic toys. And you could do like Long Branch School District. This is George Canterbone Elementary, who did a drive to collect plastic garbage bags and turn them into plastic furniture and benches and decking for their playground area. Long Branch has also initiated a community education and outreach program around straws. Those of you who are in shore communities will be familiar with this. They did a beach cleanup. They noticed the amount of straws. Of course, like many of you, they've seen the video with the sea turtle and the straw up their nose. And it hurts to see that. And they were very affected, not just by that video, but what was going on in their beach in their backyard. And so they gave up straws in their cafeteria, no more straws drinking their milk and juice. Then they went out to the individual restaurants and encouraged the restaurants to get rid of straws or to use paper straws. And then they went to the council meetings to encourage that to happen at the municipal level. So you can check out their efforts at Straw Free and LB, and they did a fabulous campaign related to that, all student driven. And here's some examples from schools in your neck of the woods who tackled flood mitigation head on. So this is Egg Harbor Township High School. They had a pond on their property, on the school property, and cold rainwater and runoff was coming into the pond. And when they measured the water over a series of weeks and months, they saw that this intrusion was having an effect on the water quality and the pH for the plants and the frogs and the life that was in that pond. And so they decided to install a perimeter garden that would help soak up some of that water intrusion, keep the pH and the water quality intact for the wildlife and the plants that were living there. There's also an example here from Pennsville Memorial High School in Pennsville. They also had some flooding issues, excess water around their school. So they installed some native trees. They researched trees with low maintenance. They also had a goal of when these trees grew up, that they would provide some shade for the school building, which was overheating in the spring and summer months without air conditioning. This is the Marine Academy of Science and Technology in the Monmouth County Vocational School District. They did a dune grass replanting to help, deal with some of the erosion that was happening in their backyard. This is a civic engagement, a stewardship project. This is Memorial Middle School in Eatontown, again, installing rain gardens to absorb rainwater runoff. We've seen, rain gardens aren't just a cute thing. And in many cases, they really have an impact on the school operations and the school grounds. A school that we work with in Delran, when it rained, they were unable to use their recess area for over 30 days out of the school year. So those are days that students can't get outside. And once they installed their rain garden, that wasn't a problem anymore. And they were able to fully utilize their school grounds. There's also some innovative projects that students have taken on. This is in West Orange High School. Students noticed that they would be getting out of their activities at the end of the day. They'd be waiting for after school buses to pick them up or waiting to get picked up to go to travel games. And there was no place to sit and there was no place to charge their phone. So they came up with an idea for a solar bus stop, and they were able to secure a old bus stop from New Jersey Transit, and they received a grant from Sustainable Jersey, $10,000 grant to purchase the solar panels for their renovated bus shelter. And in the next year and a half, they're going to finish this project and have a really cool place to wait and charge their phones and be safe and secure. In Cherry Hill, students are involved and have been involved for the past 20 years in a student government day, where they insert themselves into the student government operations and take on a specific problem that the local government is dealing with. And in this case, there was an issue with congestion and traffic and emissions around a large public event that happened in their town each year. And so the students were tasked to do something in line with the township sustainability plan to mitigate that those negative effects, those traffic emissions effects, and find ways to get people to in and out of that event without long lines of traffic and emissions. And again, this is an opportunity to make your voice heard. So I mentioned that the one school got a grant. We've given over $2 million in grants. As a student, you can write a grant application for your school or school district and send it through for our program for us to award those funds to your school or school district for your project. In fact, that's been done by Ian up there in Glen Rock, who wrote a proposal to buy recycling buckets for inside of his school and to make posters to do education on how to properly recycle. These students down below in Holbein Middle School in Mount Holly, New Jersey, wrote the grant to change from styrofoam trays in their cafeteria to compostable trays. So we welcome you to utilize our resources if you need funds to make your project a reality. We have an open cycle right now. It's sponsored by the PSEG Foundation. The deadline is April 30th. We have $2,000 grants and $10,000 grants. And you can use those funds for any project that relates back to any of our program actions. And certainly everything that we've been discussing for the past couple of weeks related to climate change and all the ways that you can impact that would fit into our portfolio. So please do consider that if the ideas that you have need some resources to make them happen. So in conclusion, I encourage you to make your voice heard. I hope that you've been inspired. I hope that you received some tools through this event. Join up with your local town's green team, connect with your school green team, cooperate with your civic organizations. You heard Natasha's active with the Key Club, and the Key Club is linked up with your local Rotary Club, and these are great partners to have. Use your experience as a social media native to amplify an issue of concern. A lot of times, some of the local volunteers in your community, they might be older or retired folks who have time to volunteer, but they may not be great with social media and might need some assistance from you to help let other people know the opportunities to get involved in town. And seek some internship, summer break, and work study positions as environmental interns. We have a couple schools in our program that once seniors graduate and they go off to college, they will hire those graduating seniors again when they're home for summer break to help work on their Sustainable Jersey application back in their alumni school. So I encourage you to stay connected with your community even after this project and you go on to even bigger and better things to make yourself available to your community. And here at Sustainable Jersey for Schools, there's bound to be an example of another school or another group of students who is interested in a project that you're thinking about. So we would be more than happy to point you in the right direction of some support. And you can contact us at schools@sustainablejersey.com or at our individual emails here. And then at this time, we'll take questions.
Well, I think if there aren't any immediate questions, so keep thinking on them. Go ahead and type them into the chat, everyone, or throw them into the Q&A. I think Natasha and I might have a few more resources, just in interest of time, that we want to get those links into the chat. But as questions come up, we'll circle back around to those. Okay. All right.
Perfect. So here are just a few more tips, like Dr. Drew said, just to help you guys figure out what you want to do as you continue on to start moving on to these projects. So if you want to learn more about the contest and access all the resources, visit the Sustainable Jersey for Schools website. That's www.sustainablejerseys.com or sustainablejerseyschools.com. The link will also be put in the chat.
And I also, teachers, I encourage you to encourage your students, of course, to participate in the contest. And in order to help us plan and make sure that we have everything ready for all of these great submissions on our end, we encourage you and are requiring teachers to register for the contest. It's kind of like a pre-registration. You can, you don't need to know exactly what projects you're going to do just yet, but we're trying to get an estimate of how many people might be participating. So Renee just dropped that link into the chat. We also, teachers will be scheduling some Zoom meetings so we can answer any questions that you or your students may have along the way and help the teacher mentors. I don't want to say guides because this is definitely student-driven projects, but help teachers think about how they can facilitate those successes and avoid some of the challenges. And we have a teacher climate contest teacher mentor guide that I believe just got put into the chat that is available for teachers to download.
And finally, for all students, start thinking about what aspect of climate change is most interesting to you and find like-minded friends and classmates to form your team and start planning your efforts. Also, you can check out the Climate Contest Student Guide that will be linked in the chat by Renee.
And everyone, please don't hesitate to email any questions you may have to our project's email address, which is njstudentclimatechallenge@sustainablejersey.com. And finally, and Renee just dropped that link in the chat. And finally, when you are closing out of this Zoom session, please, it helps us so much if you're able to complete that brief survey that will pop up when you close out of this Zoom session. Your feedback will be so helpful as we move forward to launch the Student Climate Challenge, hopefully statewide next year. So have a great afternoon. I know we're just right now out of time, but I'm sure our presenters will stick around for another moment or two if anybody has any questions that have come to mind. But thank you so much for joining us. I respect everyone's time if you have to leave right now, but thank you so much for joining us today and for all throughout the summit. We really appreciate it. All right, have a great one.